that's not what I wanted. All right, hold on. Okay. Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to JCBIY Events Talk Show, and I am your host, Valencia M.
Greetings. Hello, everyone. I
Hello,
am
hello.
Jordina. I am co host of JCBIY Talk Show and super excited for today's show.
Hey, I'm Yvette. I am your co-host and super excited as well.
All right. So today we have our special guest, Dr. LaRonda Harmon. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. LaRonda.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Loranda Harmon. I am a licensed professional counselor and a doctor of psychology, and I do psychotherapy and life coaching.
Ooh,
All
I
right.
love life coaching. Listen, I heard psychotherapy and life coach. I'm ready. Let's go.
We
Let's
need
go.
this. We definitely need this. Okay. Yes.
I need all of that. I need all of that.
I
So
understand. I understand.
So today we have Dr. LaRonda. We're talking about sacred relationships. And we're super excited. So I'm just gonna hand the floor to you. You tell us what exactly we need to know about sacred relationships.
what is a sacred relationship? That was my first question. What is a
Mhm.
sacred relationship?
I'm glad you asked that because a lot of people don't think about it as sacred. So let me just break it down. Look at the two words. So we have sacred. And so when you think about what is sacred, you're thinking about that which is connected with God, that's connected with the higher, that's connected with the divine. And that which is divine is like set apart. And so if you think about this, because some people might be saying, well, is this from a religious context? And it really is not. So think about it this way. If you think about who we are, like if you ask a person, who are you? They struggle with the answer to that. But the answer is simply I am a spiritual, divine being living in a physical body.
Mhm.
And that's essentially what sacred means or divine means. And for those of you who are like religious or you believe in a certain deity or God, think of it this way. So if I'm going to use the term God, think of God as being the ocean, right? And you're the vessel. And it's literally like God scoops your vessel out of the ocean and he lives inside of you. Do you get it?
Mhm.
Some people call it the Holy Spirit, but it's like God is inside of you. So something that is sacred, it taps into the divine inside of you. Now, what is a relationship? A relationship is really about connection. It's two or more people who come together to connect.
Mhm.
They relate to each other. They're on a ship together in the journey of life. So a sacred relationship essentially, Jordina, is a divine connection. And that could be between two or more people. It does not have to involve sexual intercourse. It doesn't have to involve romance. It could be between two friends, a family, whatever the case might be. But it's something very special about that relationship. It has a mission and a purpose that is beyond just coexisting in the world.
Okay,
Okay.
that's
I
fair.
love that. Okay.
That's okay. All right. That's what I needed to start there in terms of just being able to understand kind of that level of concept, I guess, really.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because what I try to do is I do a lot of couples therapy and I try to get couples to go beyond the physical realm of who they are. So a lot of times when people are in relationship, they're looking at each other and they're fighting with the physical part of themselves. And so all they can see is that which is before them. But when you look at it from a perspective of this is a sacred relationship, you go higher and you can see the whole picture. And so a lot of times in relationships, if we go beyond the physical, I just see you, you're offending me, you're hurting me, you're saying this, you're behaving this way, you're acting this way, your energy is this way, I can get frustrated and discouraged and I can feel disconnected. But again, if I go to the higher realm of myself, that part of me that is divine, I see the whole picture. And so when you think about the word intimacy, you think into me, I see. I see inside of you and you see inside of me. And that's what I'm trying to get people to, get couples to, that it's not just about seeing each other face to face, but it's like looking at the God in each other and seeing it from a higher perspective. Because when you do that, you see the bigger picture. So, for example, if somebody has an attitude every time, like let's say you ask your mate, can you run to the store for me? Or could you do that? And you're like, Dad, every time I turn around, he's asking me to do something. But if you look at it through a spiritual set of lens, I wish I had my glasses here because I always ask people to put on that spiritual lens. If you look at it through a spiritual set of lens, you realize, oh, you know what? When he grew up, his parents treated him like he was a butler. His mom just made him do, and never gave affection or love. And so whenever I asked him to go to the store or to fix something, I'm tapping into, I'm triggering his upbringing, where that's all he got from his parents and it caused him a lot of pain. That's spiritual insight. And that's what a sacred relationship is. That's just an example.
So let me ask you, because you mentioned that you do couples counseling, and one of the questions that I had was around, do you find that couples wait until there's an issue to seek counseling, or do couples seek out counseling before issues start to arrive to kind of, help them, like you talked about, help them see each other completely?
So most cases, couples, it's kind of a twofold answer. So black and white, couples seek counsel when they're in trouble, most times. But a lot of couples get premarital counseling. And so they have some form of counseling before they even say, I will or I do. The problem is sometimes they'll do it through like what we call pastoral counseling. And pastoral counseling is not limited to Christian counseling, it's any type of religious leader. But, as much as a religious leader might have discernment, they don't necessarily have the training and the skills to provide the counseling on a deeper level. So oftentimes when I ask questions in counseling, they'll say, oh, we never thought about that before. No one ever asked me that question before. Or they'll say, this is what comes up all the time. And we'll get to this, I'm sure, eventually. I never heard him say that before. I didn't know that. I didn't know that she felt that way. Because again, people who are not, you can be very discerning. Like I was a counselor. I always tell my mate this. I was a counselor before I got the credential. So it can come natural, but the credentialing, the training helps you to go deeper. It gives you the skill set to go beneath. Like we are trained to read beneath your words. And to some degree, we're even trained to read your aura. So like, it's not like if I'm in a counseling session with a couple, it's not that I'm just listening to their words. I'm looking at their body language. I'm looking at their facial expressions and I'm picking up on that as well. So yes, unfortunately, couples do wait until there's a problem. However, the good thing is that once they start counseling, they see the benefit of the maintenance of it. So just like we take our cars to get an oil change or a tune-up, couples after they receive counseling realize, you know what, we need to do this on a regular basis. So they might come once every few months just to do a check-in, a preventive measure. So that does happen. But usually that's not the initial phase of it.
Mm. I think everyone can benefit from some kind of counseling because, no one has like a perfect upbringing.
Right.
We bring a bunch of baggage from, from our childhood into our adult lives, and there are so many things that we don't deal with, issues or whatever that we don't deal with, and we take that into our relationship. So I think that most people can benefit from having some sort of therapy at some point in their lives, whether it's in a relationship or not. But so many people still see a stigma attached to that. Well, all I need is Jesus and he's going to take care of me. And it's like, well, he is going to take care of you, but you need to take care of yourself right here. Okay. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, but
can I speak to that point that you just made, Valencia? So that's another thing. A lot of people don't address their, let's just call them issues or problems or situations or circumstances because they don't even know why. Like people don't really know why they do say and feel the way they do. And sometimes it's the therapist's job to help trace back the story for them so that they can see where it began. And I would say in most, if not all cases, it begins during childhood where they have certain experiences that help them develop core beliefs about themselves. And the main core belief that is common among most humanity is I'm not good enough. I'm not competent enough. So a lot of times we operate from that space. That's one. The second thing is, thankfully now, as a culture, African Americans in particular, we're realizing the benefit of counseling because we're seeing what's going on in the world. And let me, this is what I kind of talk to people about. If you have um, fourth stage lung cancer, what you going to do? You're going to go see your doctor. You're going to see the oncologist. You're not going to just pray because let's bring in scripture for the sake of the argument. Faith without works is what? Dead.
Dead. Yeah.
It's dead. So if you have a belief that God is going to heal you, you still got to get up and do something about it. And so do you think about the term psychologist? Psyche, psyche means soul. So a doctor who studies psychology is a doctor, a physician, a practitioner of the soul. That's what we do. So now people are realizing I can't just focus on my physical well-being. I need to focus on my mental and emotional and social well-being. So I'm thankful, that more and more people are coming in for counseling from our culture.
So let me ask you, as the single woman on the panel here, my question comes from a place of when people are in their singleness, and I'm saying people because I think a lot of times we put emphasis on women, but we don't also put the emphasis on single men. But when we're in our season sort of singleness, what advice do you have for people in terms of working on themselves? Like some of that self-revelation, I guess, that you were talking about, right? Like, so that I don't come into a relationship with some of that baggage, that I could prepare, I guess, myself in a better way.
So, that's an interesting question because a lot of times I come from the church and I remember being like in the singles ministry, and it's like you need to learn to love Jesus first and you need to work on yourself first. But as I continue to work with human beings, I realized that for some people that works. For other people, healing actually comes through the realm of a romantic relationship, or let me not say romantic, but like an intimate relationship. So it varies depending on the person. Like a lot of times we have these cookie cutter messages for people, and it's like, no, we're not cookie cutters. We're unique individuals with unique stories and unique experiences. So we all need something different. So it depends on where you are now. To just go to the basic, how do I work on myself until that day comes? Well, it depends on what you want. So let me go back a little bit. The first thing is to know who you are. Well, I am this spiritual being that lives in this physical body. When you see who you truly are, you understand your superpower, if you will. Because a lot of times we become victims of our circumstances. But remember, I said to you earlier, the ocean, God lives inside of you. So you have the ability to manifest whatever you desire in life because you have the power to do so. So once you know who you are, you say, what do I really want? So you, Jardina, let me ask you this question. Is it that you want a relationship or is it that you want to remain single?
No, I want a relationship. At this point, I want a relationship.
So usually in life, when we want something, we have to not only speak it into existence, because again, faith without works is dead, but we have to, like, God has given us this beautiful ability, and children know how to use it until we damage children. It's called our imagination. And our imagination is truly our image nation. You can form what you want in your head. So you know how the scripture talks about speak those things that are as if they were? Speak it, feel it, experience it, see it, because our brain remembers images more than words. So start seeing what you want. So if you want to see yourself in a loving, supportive relationship, a sacred relationship, a divine connection with somebody, you start seeing it. But as a single person, you don't just see it, you got to experience it. So if y'all don't mind, I'm going to testify. Do y'all mind if I testify?
You better go ahead and testify. Go ahead.
I'm gonna testify. So I remember in my 30s, I was getting discouraged because I was still single. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when is he coming? Like, I would have little, I won't even call them relationships. I don't know what they were, but they were just coming and going. I'm like, this ain't working. And I remember I was saying, I can't do this any longer. I'm finished. I'm finished with the single life. I don't want it anymore. And I'm like in my late 30s at this time, early 40s. And I remember learning from someone. So this is not original. I'm just learning the sciences of life. And it was like, if you want something, you have to visualize it. So what I did was, I hate, this is TMI, but I'm just going to say it because I'm going to be frank with y'all. I went through my drawers and I got rid of everything that I couldn't wear in front of him, whoever he was. So you know those special like time of the month underwear, like all of those were thrown in the trash. Because I was like, nope, I'm getting ready for his arrival. And I remember I used to cook because I had my own place at the time and I'm cooking. But I would be cooking with beautiful clothes on, single, nobody in sight, nobody serious in sight. But I would be preparing my meals as if I was preparing, like my energy was there. I started building up the momentum to being a wife, you know what I mean? To being somebody's woman. Like I started feeling it. And so my energy changed. And when I would go out, there was a certain about me because I was revving up the energy of being the person that I wanted to be. I didn't wait for him to show up. I started functioning as if he was already there. And shortly thereafter, I got a text message from a friend who said, hey, it's this guy that I want you to meet. Now, before I was against blind dates because when I was 15, somebody didn't, I went on a blind date and he did not like me. And I said, I'll never do that again. I'll never be rejected again. But this time, because my energy was already in the space of relationship building, I was like, I'm meeting him. When I got the text message, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this person a chance. He's kind of cute. And I felt insecure within myself, but because of the energy, I still was like, push. And 6 years later, I'm still with that person and we have a child together.
Okay.
So, what do I recommend? Be who you want to be now, not tomorrow, not next year. And so, like, sometimes one of the homework assignments I'll give single women is to go out and buy his toothbrush and deodorant and a clean pair of underwear for him and put it in your drawer. So when he arrives and he wants to stay over, you already have what you need. I'm talking about women who don't have anybody with them.
Yeah.
Move some space over in your closet, make some room for him. Dress the way you would, because a lot of times as women, we don't really get put into ourselves. We'll wait till that special person come. No, do it now. Feel good now. Wear the beautiful undergarments now. Do your hair and nails and feet and all that stuff now. If that's what you want to do it now. Be domesticated now. Don't wait till he calls, say, I'm on my way, and you try to hurry up and clean your house. No, have it beautiful now. Light the candles now. Buy your fresh flowers now. And you might think that's so simple, but the truth is, it's very powerful. It gives you energy. So it's nothing magical about it in the sense of, well, you just manifest by visualizing. No, you start living a certain way, you start drawing in that energy. So again, just be who you want to be now.
I love that.
And another thing, I hate, you know what, a lot of times, and Valicia's laughing, a lot of times women, will ask, well, how do I know he's coming or how do I prepare? I think about the story of Esther, how she was being prepared for the king. She was, they bathed her and put certain fragrances on her and things like that. So when she was taken to the king, she was already prepared for him. A lot of times we spend this time not preparing ourselves to be the person that we want to be when he shows up.
Mm-hmm.
We just wait and then we be like, I'll get it together. No, be her now.
Yeah.
So
I think people absolutely miss that. I mean, you use Esther as an example, but Ruth is an example too. Like she was working. She was out there getting her work on, you know what I mean, before she met Boaz. So like it's not about you sitting in the house or about you relaxing. It's about you going about your life and living. And so I think a lot of times singles don't necessarily seek out that therapy or that counseling, but I think that there's so many different techniques. Like you mentioned, I know, people call it the act as if, right? Or script, or try scripting, or all of these things that allow you to start walking around and carrying yourself in a place of being able to be ready and be received. So I think that's great.
Yeah, and you know what? And one thing I missed out on, like you got to be ready, but you got to love yourself. Not first in the sense of like a complete love, because that's a lifetime journey, right? Loving yourself and getting to know yourself, it takes a lifetime. It goes on until the end till you take your last breath. But part of that loving yourself is loving being with you even.
Yeah.
Why would anybody else want to be with you if you don't want to be with you?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So feeding the spirit in your mind and do it like you mentioned, Ruth, working. If you want to go to school, if you want to be at a certain place in life, then do it. A lot of times we put our lives on hold for what we want and we miss out on today.
Mhm.
Like live life now in this moment.
Mhm.
And don't wait for someone to complete you.
Yes.
You need to be whole. You need to be complete yourself. That's something that, when as
Absolutely.
far as romantic relationships go, we grow up thinking, oh, you complete me. No,
Right.
I was already a complete person
Yeah.
without you. You
Yeah.
are adding to.
Yeah.
Don't, I want to bring my 100% and you bring your 100%. And so we have a whole 200. Okay. percent.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
that's something
Exactly.
very important because it's all romanticized.
Mhm.
The reality of relationships is that it's freaking hard
It's
work.
hard.
It
Okay,
goes a little
It's a
bit.
job.
it's hard work
Constant
to be
job.
living with somebody all.
You're in slow motion.
It's a hard
Yep.
work to be dealing with all of the ins and outs of the things that they have, their likes, their wants, their hangups, and all that stuff, and plus your own. And it is work. It doesn't stop just because you fall in love with someone. That's when it really begins. You have to work at the relationship,
Yeah.
and that's all
Absolutely.
relationships.
And
That's friendships and everything.
yeah, I believe, like you said, get to be who you are before, you know, he comes into your life. Because a lot of times what happens is that people get discouraged because people change. They weren't who they were in the beginning anyway. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And so now, you hear people saying, oh, well, she changed since we got married or since we did this. No, you need to get to know who you want to be before all of that. So, you don't have to worry about those, sudden changes,
Mhm.
you know.
And you know what? And I'm gonna be honest with you, Yvette. Like it's funny because like through our different developmental stages, we change. But when you're solid in yourself,
Right.
you're not moved by the ways of other people. And the thing
Exactly.
about this is this, like you. So complete to me, I use the word perfect. You're perfect, and I'll explain that in a moment because I know that we said well nobody's perfect, but I'll explain what I mean in a moment. Um, so even though you're this perfect being that is complete and whole, when you think about love, like let's think about our children. As a result of our love, our need for them, they grow. And I
Mhm.
dare I say they grow spiritually. So when you're in a relationship, you want to be able to grow. So you're already whole, but you still want
Right.
to be able to blossom. Because what is the point of you being in my life? And what is the point of me being in your life if we're not growing or helping each other grow? Like that is true love, just like we do for our children. Now, when it comes to completion or perfect, I like to say perfect. So I do it this way. I think of a silhouette. So if you could think about a body that is, it has no breakups, no indentations, it's a full body. It's perfect, meaning it's whole. But what is the body composed of? Well, positive and negative. All of us, we align with nature. So all of us have perfect and imperfect components of our being, positive and negative. So if you think about fire, for example, fire will heat you, warm you, but it will also burn you to death. The
Mhm.
ocean will replenish you, it will relax you, but it will drown you. Everything in nature has positive and negative in it, but it's still perfectly complete in the sense that it's still whole. All of us are whole. We're perfect beings composed of positive and negative aspects of ourselves. So we have to know that. And when we get into relationships, we have to know that about the people we get into relationships with, that we get on the ship of life with, that they have their parts and I have my parts. But again, I'm going to go back to the beginning. When you look through the spiritual perspective, you see the whole person. That doesn't mean you stay with them if you don't feel like you need to stay with them, because we could
Right.
talk about that too. But you see them. You
Yeah.
see them, and you're not just going by what they present to you, but you see inside of them and what they need, and hopefully they see the same for you.
Yeah.
I like that.
So I do want to know just from you guys, and not to put your business out there, so it could be friends of yours or a cousin of yours. But do y'all have any specific questions about things that arise in relationships that you yourself experience or experiencing or other people have experienced? Like real questions, nitty gritty questions, because I'm ready for it.
My biggest question is like communication, learning, like giving us some pointers or, advice on how to be effective communicators, like listening and, speaking to whoever, our loved ones, so that, because sometimes things get lost.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you may communicate something to a person and they get something totally different than what you meant.
Right.
And being able to effectively listen
Right.
to what's being said without like, okay, I can't wait for my turn. It's gonna be my turn in a minute. It's gonna be my turn. Then I can talk. So can you give us some advice on that?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question because that's one of the main things that come up in couples therapy, that they have a breakdown in communication, which leads to a breakdown in intimacy. I'm talking about even sexual intercourse because the communication is thwarted.
Mhm.
So the first thing, again, it goes back to being able to see inside of the person because you can understand what they're saying and what they're coming from. But this is another part of it. A lot of times we don't realize that we filter information that we receive from our mates through the prisms, or we call them schemas, of our own mindset. So again, let me go back to the glasses, and I really wish I had a pair of glasses on. Let's say you have a pair of glasses and it's your childhood, and it's just your family life. Then another pair of glasses on top of that. So you can kind of still see clearly, right? One pair of glasses you can see clearly. It's through your childhood experiences. It's through the lens of your religious beliefs, things like that. Then you start getting into relationships. That's another pair of glasses. So it's like you can still see, but not as clearly. Then you get into friendships, and then you get into heartbreaks, and then all types of stuff happens. Let's say if you have on six pair of glasses, can you see clearly?
No, not at all.
No. And so when somebody in your relationship communicates something to you, you're seeing it through the lens of six pair of glasses instead of one.
Mm.
So that person is almost having to deal with all the other stuff that you've had to deal with, all of the other schemas, prisms, the way that you look at life. So a lot of times we misinterpret what somebody is saying, or we misunderstand what somebody is saying because we're filtering it through our dad saying, you're not pretty enough, or you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough. So if he said, babe, you messed up on our taxes this year, you go right back to, but you go back to the messages. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. And you're like, I can't seem to get anything right. You always complaining. No, I'm not. I just told you a statement. But you done took away back to the first pair of glasses that you had on. You get what I'm saying? So that's one part of the community, understanding each other in terms of the communication is really understanding, seeing into each other. So you won't snap back, or the person won't snap back and say, well, I was just asking you a question. It's like, no, okay, I see that this is coming from, he took it this way because he's been through these different things, or she took it this way. So that's one part of really understanding each other, getting each other. The second thing is speak the truth in love. We don't do that a lot. We'll tell somebody the truth, but we don't sprinkle it with love.
Right.
And love is not nice, and love is not kind. Love is truth. So speak it, but speak it from a place of like respect for the other person, a certain level of reverence for the other person. And listen, I'm guilty. I'm right here, like I'm preaching to the choir. So I promise you, I don't have this together. It's somewhere to go. It's a goal to strive toward. So it's like you don't just say you always come home and just lay on the couch and you don't want to do nothing. You're so boring. Well, every time I ask you to clean, you don't want to clean. Or if I ask you to do this, you don't want to do that. Or you don't dress up enough. Or you so stingy. We go into that accusatory mode. And if we take a step back and speak the truth in love, we say, honey, when you say that you don't want to go out to me, I feel unwanted. You see the difference in the energy there?
Mhm.
When I ask you to do something for me and you choose not to do it, I feel disregarded. Notice I say, when you do, I feel. So that is a tool. When you raise your voice at me, I feel berated. When you distance yourself from me or disconnect from me, I feel very unwanted and unattractive. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you're
Instead
not
of
just
accusing.
accusing.
Yeah. Instead
Yeah,
of
yeah,
saying
you're
you
not
berated me.
accusing.
Yeah.
You berated me. You always got something to say. Anytime I turn around, you got something to say. No, I noticed that every time I make certain comments, I'm not free to speak to you because I feel judged. You make a comment or you respond to me in a way that makes me feel belittled.
Yeah.
That gets to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
Now, when you're heated, you don't always think that way because let me explain how the brain works. When you're heated and you're angry, the amygdala, that's the back part of your brain, is alerted. And so it's in stress, fear response. And so it either will fight. Who the F you think you talking to? I'm home in Middletown with my mother, so I don't use any profanity in her presence, even though she's downstairs. I'm sorry. So I'm just going to say F. Who the F you think you talking to? That's the fight. Or you'll uh, flee or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of related, so you shut down.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with you? Nothing. Where you going? Nowhere. Or you just leave the house. That's when your stress response is in like high motion. Now, what happens? Let me tell you what happens neurologically. When your amygdala is highly alerted, your prefrontal cortex and that part of the brain is responsible for being rational, for problem solving, for being logical and thinking things through. This is the truth, y'all. When the amygdala is on high alert, it shuts down. Like your prefrontal cortex is. That's why you can have an angry outburst and be like, I don't know what happened. That's why people can say, I blacked out, because it's the truth. Your ability to think things through just shuts down and it freezes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why when we're so impulsive, it's like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Because you weren't thinking clearly. So the way that you reignite or reactivate the prefrontal cortex is you, I need a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Taking a deep breath when it's communicated in a heated discussion, taking a deep breath alone will kind of help reactivate this and calm the amygdala down so that you can have real conversation. And that's why, and I'm gonna tell y'all what is very common among men, but it's very I hear it in all, and I have several couples that I currently counsel and that I have counseled over the years, and I experience it in my own relationship. Every single man I have worked with will say, I need time to
I need a
process.
minute. Oh yeah, I need a
I
minute.
need a time to process. And then we as women, no, I want to talk about this
Right
right
now.
now.
Right now.
So I want you to think about it this way. When he says, I need a moment to process, give him a moment to slow down, calm down that amygdala, and so his prefrontal cortex can come back into action. Because you'll notice when you give him time and space, and that could be for us too, when we're given time and space, we can have real conversations. So
Right.
when it's emotional, it's like, and I'm not saying don't fight, because I'm gonna be honest with you, like, couples who say to me, we never fight, we never argue, I feel badly for them because then y'all being fake with each other because there's no possible way two human beings are always going to agree.
Right.
So an argument is healthy, but when you find that it's getting disrespectful, when it's becoming abusive, when it's becoming demeaning, okay, let me chill out. And another thing is for those women who have sons or little brothers or little cousins, and I'm talking to women in particular. I'm a woman. Sorry, men, if you feel left out, but let me just talk from a woman's space. Think about yourself talking to your own son. Would you talk to your own son the way that you talk to your man? Would you talk to your own your father if he's a really good loving father the way you talk to your man? A lot of times we are so mean and nasty and disrespectful. And they can be too because I hear it. Well, honey, they disrespectful too. This is the key. We are responsible for ourselves,
Mhm.
and we don't have to lower or subject ourselves because somebody else has decided to do that for themselves. Because a lot of times we'll get into that tit for tat. Well, I did it because he did it. No, you be the goddess, and you let him bark like a dog if you want to, but you maintain what you remember. What I said to you earlier, Jordina. You be who you want to be. You show up the way that you want to show up. And one of the other things, Valencia, just to help out, one of the things that I've been getting in my own relationship, I don't always apply it, but I do my best that I can most times is I've been hearing I just